What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we got an episode of Let's Talk Dynasty. And what War and I have decided to do today is a redraft of the 2023 rookie class. We are now at the halfway point of the NFL season, and we have a little bit more context on what these rookies have been for fantasy football and have a little bit of a better projection on what they are going to be moving forward into the future. So with that being said, we wanted to take another stab at this draft class and redraft it as if it started today. So without wasting any more time, let's bring my co-host MFGDs, aka War, into the building. War, how you doing, man?
I'm up here. I'm ready. I'm ready to do this, man. I'm excited about this episode, man. I'm excited.
What we are gonna make this is kind of the standard that we play in War. It's that 12 team Superflex tight end premium. It's all that stuff, right? So Superflex tight end premium. I'm gonna share the screen. Let's pull this up. But you see the draft board up on the screen here. And 101 War, I feel like, back then, this would have not been something we would have ever done. If we did this, we probably would have been ridiculed. But the people who did do this would have been the smart move. So for me, I'm going to be drafting no other than CJ Stroud, 101. I think so far CJ Stroud has shown us that he is that dude. So far looking like the best quarterback in this class. It's looking like, I don't know, man. It's looking like CJ Stroud is the best player in this whole class so far. So I think at this time, a few months ago, it would have been either Anthony Richardson or Bijan Robinson. But I think now we've all looked at it, and I would say CJ Stroud is probably the popular choice here.
Yes, I agree. If I had the 101, I'm definitely taking CJ Stroud. I mean, it's kind of amazing. We actually looked at this guy as being the lightest one out of the big three quarterbacks. And here he is setting records and dominating.
Yep. Yeah, man. I mean, he looks legit. He looks like the franchise quarterback of the future. There was very few people that I heard it from, but there was a very few amount of people that said that CJ Stroud had some Joe Burrow comparisons to him. And if you made that comparison, if you're one of the few that did, it's looking like you're pretty accurate right now. I mean, his trajectory just looks like it's the best of all these guys so far. I think he's going to be a future Pro Bowler, maybe even a future All-Pro. And I think the Texans got their guy, man.
It's a surprise because the Texans are a very destitute franchise.
Yeah. Well, let's see, man. What are you going to do with your number two?
My number two, I'm going to kind of stick with our original thoughts. I'm going to take Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
I want to take A-Rich, and I'm going to take him with the second pick. I think that A-Rich, had he not been injured, the storyline right now for this season, as far as the rookie class, would be C.J. Stroud versus Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, at the point in time when he got injured, he was probably in position to be that rookie of the year. I think C.J. Stroud will still be where he is and the likely rookie of the year, even if Anthony Richardson stayed healthy. But up until the point where Richardson was injured, he was definitely that guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, with that shoulder injury, that's the only thing that you could really put a stain, I guess, on his rookie season, but it's not even his fault. So when he was playing, he looked good. I mean, let's look at some of these games that he played in. 19 points, 20 points, 19 points, 21 points. He was doing a lot of what we expected from him: 40 rushing yards, 35 rushing yards, 56 rushing yards. Look at all these rushing touchdowns. Looks exactly like he was advertised, kind of a guy that was going to get you a lot of fantasy points on the ground. And it looks like that's kind of the trajectory of Anthony Richardson up to this point.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that he's definitely a future fantasy stud for sure.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, with 103, I feel like this is where it gets interesting because I think at this point you could kind of go in a couple directions. And if you want to call it take lock, I guess go ahead. But I am going to stick with Bijan Robinson as the 103. I think right now we're dealing with a little bit of the Arthur Smith drama. There is the uncertainty with that, but I can't imagine that a player this good. We were talking about generational talent, Bijan Robinson. He still is a generational talent, Bijan Robinson. It's just that the usage hasn't been what we wanted it to be up to this point. But even then, man, like let's look at what is going on with Bijan Robinson here. Like, he's still scoring fantasy points, 20 points in week 1, 21 points in week 2, 18 points in week 4. He's had a little bit of a dip. We know he had the headache game and some of the other stuff, but it's hard for me to believe that this is going to be the norm for Bijan Robinson. I think those first few weeks where we were seeing him put up 20 points a game, 18 points a game, that seems to be, I think, what should be expected from him. And once Arthur Smith is done being a pain in my ass, I guess that's what it's going to be for Bijan Robinson. But I can't confidently take any of these other guys over Bijan just because I think the talent gap between the two is so large.
Yeah, you have to buy the talent. You have to buy the talent. This guy was generational coming out of college. Just because you hit a few little bumps in the road doesn't mean you should bail and push him off to the side. So I have no issue with your pick of Bijan right here, number 3.
Yep. All right, man. What are you going to do number 4?
Man, number 4, there's like 3 guys that I could consider right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to take Jahmyr Gibbs because just like Bijan, this guy was considered a stud coming out and almost the alternate to the fact that he had such low usage coming in, but since Montgomery got injured, he's showing us who he could be. Now, are the Lions going to go back to some stupid committee where they're going to go back to disrespecting Gibbs? It's possible. But he showed us that if you give him the ball, he can make magic happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's super talented. Let's even just look at some of the last few games here. I mean, last week obviously being his best week against the Raiders, he had 152 rushing yards and another 37 on the ground, 5 catches. He had 9 catches the week before. I mean, we're seeing this dual threat kind of receiving and rushing weapon that Jahmyr Gibbs has turned into. And we had some comps coming into the NFL that was Alvin Kamara. We heard Alvin Kamara a lot about Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of that Alvin Kamara type of prototype come out of Jahmyr Gibbs. You see the news report here from Fantasy Pros right here. They're saying that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to touch or get into David Montgomery's role a little bit more this week. Hopefully Dan Campbell is a man of his word, because I think when you and I watch the games, I know Monty's been out for a little bit, but even at the beginning of the season when there was a split there, Jahmyr Gibbs was passing the eye test and he looked like the juiciest back in the backfield.
Exactly. And that's why I picked him at number 4. I feel like I'm off to a very good start. Got 2 athletic beasts on my team, on my squad. And, believe it or not, in one of my leagues, this is actually my first 2 picks. So I do have this combo in one of my leagues.
There you go. All right, man. Well, at 105, this is where it gets really tough for me, because I feel like those 4 guys that we just talked about, I think all of those guys they were, for the most part, expected to come in and be studs. And I think they've all pretty much proven that they came in and were studs.
Heart versus mind.
I know.
I got a feeling you're debating between a guy you absolutely love and a guy that's just being super productive right now. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways that I could look at this for me right now. And honestly, I want to go Bryce Young. Because this is a Superflex league. The quarterback position is very, very valuable. And I have to imagine this rough start for Bryce Young shouldn't be the norm, but he hasn't performed. And I understand that. So I think it's very, very clear that as of right now, Bryce Young is the QB3 in this class. But one thing that I also want to talk about is that there's another guy. I'm wearing his jersey right now, Jordan Addison. He has been balling. I think right now he's probably my wide receiver 1 in the class, just off of production. For me coming in, it was Jaxon Smith-Njigba. But then last but not least, and this is going to be the guy that I draft, and this might throw a whole wrench into this, is when you scroll down a little bit further, keep in mind this is tight end premium. I think there's been nobody better than Sam Laporta right now. And I think Sam Laporta is worthy of a top 5 pick right now. He's currently being valued as the tight end 1 over on Keep Trade Cut. When you look at what he has been doing all year long so far, he's instantly stepped in. That is abnormal for rookie tight ends to step into the NFL and be a difference maker right away. He is scoring fantasy points all over the place. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of his first 8 where he has been a double-digit scorer or better. Some of those games being as high as 19 points and 22 points in 3 of those ones. Sam Laporta has been a baller for the tight end position, and this is a position where if you find that difference maker, it really does give you an edge and an advantage over your opponents because there is very few difference makers at the tight end position. So I think right now, Sam Laporta in this Superflex tight end premium type of format, Sam Laporta is more than worthy of a top 5 pick here.
Yes, he is. And we're talking about possibly the heir apparent to Travis Kelce as the number 1 tight end in fantasy football for the foreseeable future. Barring something happening with Jared Goff or Jared Goff just not being good, Sam Laporta appears to be the guy. And it highlights even more how amazing this draft class is. The fact that you have possibly 2 of these guys in this draft that are like these super elite rookie tight ends. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing. But yeah, I have no issue with Sam Laporta going right here. Could even went higher.
Yeah. Well, let's see what you do with 106, man. I'm interested.
All right. So I'm a man who trusts your word, Andrew. And I'm going to make this pick because this guy is the guy that you sold me on being the number 1 absolutely can't miss wide receiver in this draft. And just because he has two guys that one appears to be in total decline and the other one appears to be, I'm not going to say appears to be, the other one is probably close to being out of the door. I'm going to go with JSN here. It's only a matter of time before. In fact, I got a bold prediction.
Okay.
By the end of this season, JSN will be undoubtedly the number 1 wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. Mark my words, by the end of the season, and it's already happening. It's already happened. He's out to me. He's already moved into I'm surpassing DK Metcalf territory. And that's it. See, and the crazy thing is, I almost consider DK and Tyler Lockett as 1A, 1B as far as wide receivers for that team. I'm just unimpressed by DK. And I feel like JSN is the most talented wide receiver in that wide receiver room. And it's going to show. And it's coming. And I want him on my team when it arrives.
Yeah, man. I mean, I kind of mentioned earlier this offseason, I mean, you already said it. I said he was the, number 1, clear-cut number 1 wide receiver for me in this class. And we can pull up the receipts. I said it was JSN and Jordan Addison. That was my 1A, 1B, but I had JSN as that 1A. To me, and keep in mind, that was after the NFL draft, after we had the landing spot for Jordan Addison. But before Jordan Addison was a Minnesota Viking, and it's not just the homer, it's because we knew that Adam Thielen leaving meant a lot of opportunities for Jordan Addison. Mm-hmm. It was JSN as my number 1 all in. And so what we've kind of seen, and what I said at the time, was that I thought that JSN was going to be a little bit of a slow burn. Once we found out that he was going to the Seattle Seahawks, I said that I could see him starting to overtake Tyler Lockett in the back half of the season and be that full-time number 2 wide receiver in those 2 wide receiver sets come the end of the season. And I think you're right, War. Like, we've kind of started to see that happen. Since week 7, we have seen JSN and Tyler Lockett both put up very, very similar production. So it looks like they're, at least right now, very close. I could see that swap happening here in the back half of the season. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is a dog. I mean, when it comes down to the route running, when it comes down to everything he can do on the field, the separation, he's elite at all of these. And we've seen just over the last few weeks him scoring double-digit fantasy points. The breakout kind of happened. We saw a switch in some snap counts, and he started scoring some touchdowns, and he started getting more targets, and it started to happen for JSN. I still think, as of right now, I still value him as my wide receiver one in this class. Obviously, he hasn't been the wide receiver one in the class based off of production up to this point, but I still think that JSN is that dude, and I have absolutely zero problem with you taking JSN as the number one wide receiver off the board right now.
How do you feel about him potentially passing up DK Metcalf? Because we got to mention, if we're going to talk about JSN's ascent, we have to talk about the decline of DK Metcalf. Do you think that JSN has a shot this season to be the Seattle Seahawks number one wide receiver?
I don't know if this season is DK. It could be year 2 maybe for him to eat into DK's role. It's still going to be interesting. I think the biggest issue right now that we're seeing with Seattle is that they have a Geno Smith problem. There's not enough passing volume going around, and quite honestly, the quarterback play is at a very low quality level there in Seattle. So
we, as predicted on Let's Talk Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, we asked the question, right? Was it a mirage or was this for real? And I think you and I said that we were very, very pessimistic about the approach of Geno Smith this year and why they gave him that extension. But, at the end of the day, man, I think they have a quarterback problem. That is going to cap JSN ceiling. That's going to cap DK ceiling as well. But I think DK and JSN are their guys moving forward. Lockett, he's going to be fine for, probably this year and, maybe next year, but I think Lockett's days are very numbered in Seattle right now, especially with JSN's emergence.
I agree.
All right, man. So I can't go too much longer. I got to take my guy Bryce Young, and the reason why I'm taking Bryce Young is, again, this is a super flex league. He's gotten to 107. That's where we're at right now, right? 107. Been a rough go for Bryce Young up to this point. He hasn't looked great. The Panthers as a whole haven't looked great. They've mortgaged their future over to you guys over in Chicago.
Yes,
Jonathan Mingo hasn't looked great. Miles Sanders hasn't looked great. Like, the offensive line's regressed. Like, holy hell, man. The only guy who's looked solid has been Adam Thielen. And even then, like, he's 33 years old. So it has been a tough go for Bryce Young. I see Bryce Young show me these glimpses where it's like, okay, that's the guy that I watched at Alabama. And then I watch him go do other stuff. And I'm like, that's not the guy that I watched at Alabama. So I think Bryce Young is having a little bit of a it's just that professional shock, which is funny because I thought that he was the most poised and the most NFL ready of all these guys when it was time to come in. So I think he's having a little bit of NFL shock. In all fairness, he does have probably some of the weaker supporting cast there. And I think overall, it's just wait and see with Bryce Young. The upside is still there. He's the number one pick for goodness sake. And for what it's worth, I've seen it floating around on Twitter. People are using it as an argument because Bryce Young is trending right now, because after that Thursday night football game against you guys, it was either everybody stamped that they were still in on Bryce or they were out. Like, people were jumping ship on Bryce Young after this week. And, Trevor Lawrence's rookie year was worse than the rookie year that Bryce Young is having right now. And I think a lot of people, if they jumped ship on Trevor Lawrence, they probably would be like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. So I don't want to say right now at this point, only 9 games in, or I guess 10 games in now after that Thursday night football game, only 10 games into his career, I'm not jumping ship. I think we should look at it from a new lens. Obviously, I'm not taking him over CJ Stroud anymore. I'm not taking him over Anthony Richardson. But I think we shouldn't panic to where we're just like putting him in the bus category and sending him to oblivion. I think we need to temper the expectations, but there is still plenty of time and there's still enough upside and positive outlook that you can look at Bryce Young with, where getting him at the 107 is more than fair at this point. And I think that accounts for the adjustments that we've seen.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep this short and quick. I'm not a Bryce Young guy. I don't believe in Bryce Young. I can't say that I jumped off of the ship after Thursday night because I was never on the ship. So he's just, I never just bought into him. And a lot of it has to do with Mike Tannenbaum believing in him so much. When I see Mike Tannenbaum say something, I just immediately go in the other direction. Bryce, but I have no issue. Once again, I have no issue of you taking him here because of the talent.
Yeah.
Because of the talent, I have no issue. It's
And
kind of like
positional value.
Yeah. As much as I don't like him, if he fell later after other guys I'm considering, I would definitely take him. So I mean, I have no issue with you taking the guy that got picked number 1 overall at number 7. That's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's see what you do at number 8. I think, like I said, we're picking the top 24 guys in this class, so we got a ways to go, but let's see what you do at number 8, man.
At number 8, I'm going to make this quick. I'm going to take Jordan Addison because now I have 2 stud wide receivers to rely on in this draft. You just said it. I could have honestly went with JSN or Jordan Addison for the 6th pick, and I ended up with both. Jordan Addison, he exceeded my expectations. Up until the injury of Kirk Cousins, I think that Jordan Addison, if you drafted him this year, you were setting yourself up as a possible league winner. And I did it, but but yeah, Jordan Addison, yeah, he looks like he's gonna be the new Adam Thielen in town. So I mean, Vikings fans have to be excited about the future. I know the present's kind of well, you know what, man? I'm saying the present ain't that damn bad, okay? The present ain't bad. Josh Dobbs is really exceeding. I don't know where the hell that came from. I think he's having his Geno Smith year. But yeah, I think this kid has a very bright future, and I'll be happy to get him way down at number 8.
Yeah, man, and he coming in, I said that he would complement Justin Jefferson very, very well. His play style actually is a little bit more of that flanker type, which is very good. It's going to stretch the field. It's going to be good, obviously, too, because when you have Justin Jefferson on the other side of the field, a lot of the coverage is going to go play defense on that side of the field. So means good things for Jordan Addison. But I think even more shocking is that since Justin Jefferson has been out, Jordan Addison has elevated his game. I think he's even stepped up, which has been incredible to see. That's obviously everything you want to see out of a first-round rookie wide receiver. I mean, I think the most shocking for me up to this point is look at the touchdown numbers, man. 7 touchdowns in his first 9 games. It's been a great run for Jordan Addison, and I think this is a very, very good wide receiver. There's not much more to say about this guy. He's not gonna be that PPR monster like a Deontay Johnson or even a Justin Jefferson, right? Like he's not going to give you 10 catches a game, but in those 5 to 7 catches that he does give you, he's probably going to go for 80 yards and there's a good shot that he gets a end zone shot there in one of those as well. So Jordan Addison's a very good complementary piece to Justin Jefferson. And I think even with Justin Jefferson not on the field, he's just a very good wide receiver. So absolutely zero fault for you going at him 108 here. And again, like I said, I could have argued him as the first wide receiver off the board here. So
yes.
So for me, man, I'm going to actually stick here actually, I'm not going to do it. I really wanted to do it. I still can't get myself over it. I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid. We talked about those tight ends. We said Sam Laporta has been balling. We've seen flashes now out of Dalton Kincaid as we've been looking at him over the last couple of weeks. It took a Dawson Knox injury, and I don't know why it took a Dawson Knox injury for them to see it. But now we have multiple games here, week 7, week 8, week 9, where he's scoring 15, 17, 16 points per game. He does look like that second weapon in this offense. Outside of Stephon Diggs, he does look as advertised. And again, like I said, when you can find a advantage at the tight end position, find some positional value. And again, this format that we are drafting in being a tight end premium format, it does look like this is another one of those future tight end ones for the foreseeable future.
Yes, if you didn't take Dr. KK here, he definitely was going to be my next pick. Because I don't want to pass up on that tight end premium either. Dr. Kincaid, I have him in multiple leagues. He is again. I'm going to say this. I'm astounded that you have two of these guys in the same draft, performing in their first year. Tight ends don't do that, and these guys are out here doing it. Even though I see Dr. Kincaid is more of like a hybrid kind of. He says more of a hybrid, like wide receiver and tight end mix, but he's a tight end nonetheless, and he's doing his thing. Like I can't argue Dr. Kincaid here.
Yep, absolutely. And he's doing it all without really scoring a lot of touchdowns. I have to imagine that there's going to be some positive touchdown regression there too. He only has one so far in his career. I have to imagine there's a lot more on the horizon.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, man. 110. What are you doing?
110. I'm probably going to throw you off a little bit here. but positional value and me just, I don't know, me believing in the hype. Not believing in the hype because he didn't have any hype. I'm going to go Will Levis.
All right, Will Levis.
Levis.
Achane,
Levis. Come on, guys. We know what we're saying. I'm going to go I was super impressed with the first with the game he had where he just like went ape.
Yep.
And I'm going to buy. I'm going to buy into that a little bit, because I didn't even think that he would be okay. Look at it like this. Let's look at it like this. Malik Willis also plays for that team, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't even, in his best dream, in his best fantasy, not fantasy football, I'm talking about like actual fantasy.
Yeah.
His best fantasized dream, Malik Willis wouldn't be able to probably throw 2 touchdowns in an NFL game. And here we are, Will Levis, up here doing this, like, just going crazy. I was jealous seeing that game because I was like, my quarterback he kind of did have a 4-touchdown game, I think, this year, but it ain't look like that. So, I mean, I don't know what you think about that pick, but yeah, man, I'm gonna, maybe it's a reach, maybe it's not. We'll go with Will Levis here.
I don't mind it, man. I mean, again, like I said, there's that positional value at the quarterback position. And for what it's worth, I think so far in the class, he's probably the last one that we'll draft at the quarterback position. I can't imagine Hendon Hooker or any of these other guys, Stetson Bennett, Aiden O'Connell. I can't imagine any of those guys make it into the top 24. But I guess crazier stuff has happened. Maybe Aiden O'Connell does if you believe in AOC. I know you've been an AOC guy, but overall, I think Will Levis, man, he's shown flashes. We've seen the arm talent. He's officially named as the Tennessee Titans starter moving forward. If he wins some games, obviously they're going to give him, another year or two. I think his job is pretty safe for the foreseeable future. And the way that I like to play Dynasty Fantasy Football is I like to look at it in 2-year windows. It looks like the next 2 years for Will Levis is going to be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. And if you're drafting a starting quarterback at the 110 in a rookie draft, I don't mind it, man. I just don't mind it. I think there's so much positional value there that it doesn't really matter. But now that I'm looking at, this board while I'm on the clock here at 111, I think there's 2 guys really that I'm looking at. One of them is probably a guy that if I don't pick him, you will pick him. And the other one is probably a guy that you're forgetting about. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draft Puka Nacua here at the 111.
Oh, okay, that's the guy I forgot about.
Yep, and that's what I thought too, because he's not up here high on the board. But Puka Nacua, man, I mean, look at what he's done so far this year. He's scoring fantasy points like crazy. 20 points, 30 points, 30 points, 20 points, 23 points. Now, we have seen a little bit of a fall off of Puka Nacua since Cooper Kupp has come back into the lineup. So that does worry me just a tiny bit, a very tiny bit. It does worry me because I had this worry coming in that this was a mirage from Puka Nacua. You don't have the number 1 wide receiver on the team. then you just start force feeding the next guy. That kind of seems like what it felt like it would be. But it is not often, War, that somebody shows you the upside that Puka Nacua showed you at the beginning of the season. And so I have to draft Puka Nacua here because he's shown me more than Zay Flowers. He's shown me more than Quentin Johnston. He's shown me more than these guys, Rashee Rice, Jonathan Mingo. So Puka Nacua has to be the next wide receiver off the board, in my opinion. Even if it is a mirage, I think he can give you wide receiver 2 numbers alongside Cooper Kupp. Yeah, man, Puka Nacua out of BYU. He found his way into the first round of this redraft.
I mean, I can't argue with that. And I'm still kind of surprised because this is a guy that widely went undrafted in rookie drafts this year. I mean, or regular drafts. I mean, I think in our rookie drafts, we have some guys that that do a little bit of research. So I don't think he went in undrafted in ours. But let's just, long story short, nobody's seen it coming.
Yeah.
And he's
even in ours where he was like late 4th round, early 5th round pick.
Yeah. He almost didn't make it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have no arguments with you taking him here. Like, I'm still shocked by the way this guy's performance. I thought he was a flash in the pan, but even his average games are turning out to be fairly decent. So
he's the wide receiver 8 right now on the season. Like, it's crazy. There is times where these outliers pop up, and I don't normally like, buying outliers, but I'm not buying him in this draft. I'm just putting him on my roster. So I'll take Puka Nacua here at the 111, but I'm going to turn it over to you at 112. So let me know what you want to do here, War.
Oh man, I'm torn between two guys, man. And if I'm looking at this as actual building of teams, okay, I'll put it to you like this.
Don't look at it as building a team because we're not actually building rosters. Just take the best guys available.
Okay, well, even still, this is still a tough pick. Yeah. Oh man, crap.
I know who I would take, and I'm hoping you don't take him so I can take him with the next pick.
Oh man, I'm gonna take Zay Flowers. I'm gonna take Zay Flowers. I think we know who I was debating with against him, and I may regret it, but his position is a very fleeting position. So I'm going to go with the sustainability of the young wide receiver that's paired with the young quarterback that eventually will probably, maybe be the number 1 target for the quarterback. So I'm going to buy that future investment. Earlier in the year, the guy looked like a complete beast. He's tailed off a little bit, just kind of like Puka Nacua. He's tailed off a little bit, but we've seen the talent, and we know the talent. I think he was a lot of guys' 3rd wide receiver, or maybe in some cases 2nd wide receiver after Jordan Addison. So
I know somebody personally who had Zay as the wide receiver 1 in the class.
Oh wow, huh?
We play with him. Brandon had him as the wide receiver 1 in this class.
I had a feeling you were going to say it was Brandon.
Yep. But I think the only thing that I don't like about Zay Flowers lately, and keep in mind, still a stud. Like I would debate between Zay here. Like I don't think this is a reach by any means. I think this is right where he's probably being valued. With Puka Nacua, we said that he's kind of tailed off a little bit, but we know that's because Cooper Kupp came back and is in the lineup. Zay Flowers is tailed off, but like nobody came back into the lineup. Like the only thing with Zay Flowers tailing off is like they just turned away from the passing game and went right back to the run game like Baltimore tends to do. And I don't know why. I mean, you see the snap counts kind of come down. He was getting 80% of the snaps. There was a 3-week stretch where he was seeing 93 to 99% of the snaps. And now he's getting 72, 75, 68. I don't know why they took his snap count down lately. And it's obviously affected his production. But I think Zay Flowers is still I think he's still a fine wide receiver in the NFL, and I think he's going to be fine for the future.
Turn it around, Zay.
Turn it around. Well, I think this is probably the guy you were debating, and this is the guy that I wanted. And I'm going to go with Devon Achane right here. It's tough for me to look at what Devon Achane has put on tape. I know he's on IR, still eyeing his Week 11 return. But in that short stint where he was on the field, dude, 47 or 51 fantasy points. The running back won that week against Denver, 27-21. This offense runs the damn football. Mike McDaniel, he is an offensive play calling genius, it seems like. It's just looks like the perfect situation. We said it, man. Like Devon Achane, his best landing spot would have been Miami. He lands in Miami, and he has a 31-year-old Raheem Mostert ahead of him. I have to imagine that the 2 years for Devon Achane, at least for the next 2 years, it looks like a lot of fantasy points on the horizon for him. He's just bursty. He's electric. I think there's a lot of upside with this pick. Now, we've already seen it, and we've talked about it like in the pre-draft process. The size, 5'9", 188, like that could lead to injury. And we've now seen him go on IR and miss some time. But hey, dude, a running back's going to get hurt. It's like death and taxes, man. It's inevitable. So the running back's going to get hurt. But when he's on the damn field, it looks like he's a game breaker at the fantasy football running back position. So for me, I think Devon Achane, getting him here at the 201, it feels criminal, but it actually is probably pretty accurate. So I like what I got out of Devon Achane here.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. That is definitely the guy I was going to go with. I was debating it, and the positional value is the only reason why I didn't take Achane for the number 10 pick. So, yeah, kudos to you for getting them, and take care of them.
All right, man. Well, what are you doing here at the 202?
Okay, so this is where it's going to start getting a little. This is where it's going to separate the men from the boys. Because I think, can you agree that at this point, this is where all the locked in guys are? The guys that you're like, these are guys are current starters or current starters.
Yeah, I think for the most part, like everybody we've drafted up to this point has shown us a solid amount of NFL production where you can feel confident about their future role. I think everybody moving forward from this point on, we're still kind of projecting what that could be in the future. So a lot of this is going to be future projection and what are our future beliefs on these guys? And now we're kind of taking that kind of approach with some of these guys. So I do agree with you. These ones that we've picked up to this point, they've shown us enough to feel confident. I think the rest of these guys, we're not entirely confident in them, but we have our thoughts on them personally.
Yes. And so with that said, oh man, I hate to do this, but I'm doing it. Taking another wide receiver, taking another one, and another one. Taking Josh Downs.
Let's go.
Downs. You know what? Look, I don't think anybody predicted the slide. We're going to get to it. I'm fascinated to see how a guy that a lot of people before this season would have picked. I want to see how far it's going to fall.
He'll be drafted today. He can't fall out of the top 24.
Yeah. But this guy right now, seems better than that guy. And when I look once again, I like Stacks. When I look at him being paired with another rookie quarterback, now we do have to determine if Josh Downs' ascension is because he's paired with a more traditional passing quarterback right now. We have to talk about that, but I still like the idea of pairing the rookie receiver with the rookie quarterback. And Josh Downs performing right now. I think we all knew Josh Downs had the talent coming in, and now he's showing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, he was kind of a sneaky player coming into the draft. I can't remember exactly where I had him in my pre-draft rankings. I could pull it up really quickly, but what he's given you and what he's put on tape up to this point is pretty much everything you wanted out of him. And I think if you did draft him, you would be very pleased with what he's given you to this point. I mean, you look at some of the weeks. I mean, he's getting there was a stretch there where before he got hurt, because remember he got hurt in week 9. There was a stretch there where he was giving you double-digit points every single week, like 13 to 20 points every week. So I think Josh Downs, he's put a lot on tape. I mean, he's entirely surpassed Alec Pierce as on that offense. So it's Michael Pittman Jr. and it's Josh Downs, and I think those are their two guys moving forward. And honestly, with what they have, with Anthony Richardson at the quarterback position, I don't know if they need much more. I mean, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr., Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, like I think they're pretty set right there, and I'd feel confident with Josh Downs as a wide receiver on my fantasy football team. And I'm interested to hear. Let me see. I have it right here. I did have Josh Downs as my wide receiver 5 in this class. So you can go find it. There's timestamps, receipts, all that. He's my wide receiver 5 in the class. And the only guy that we didn't draft ahead of him in this redo is Quentin Johnston. So with that being said, War, I can't take QJ right now. I can't take QJ. We've talked about him a little bit or hinted at him. I know that's who you were talking about. I think for me, the next guy that I'm going to be drafting is Tank Dell.
Not a bad pick.
I'm going to be going with Tank Dell. We've seen flashes out of Tank Dell up to this point too. He's tied to who we just took 101, CJ Stroud. I mean, if you were paying attention during the draft cycle, apparently they were saying that CJ Stroud called the Houston Texans front office as soon as they picked him and said, "Hey, you got to go. I don't know if you're going to go draft wide receiver, but if you are, you got to go get this guy Tank Dell." And they went and got him, and it looks like they've been performing pretty well together. I mean, we have multiple weeks here where Tank Dell has had 20-point games. It does seem like that's when he's scoring the touchdown. But look, that offense has looked a lot better with CJ Stroud at the quarterback position. Tank Dell, he's going to be the number 2 in this offense moving forward. I don't think that Tank Dell is a better wide receiver than Nico Collins. He's not profiling as the X wide receiver. But I do think that Tank Dell is a very big part of this offense moving forward. So at this point, the 15th player off the board, the 203, to get a guy here that I can plug into a wide receiver 3 slot on my fantasy football teams any given week, I feel fine drafting that type of player here. And so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Tank Dell, but yeah, man, that's who I'm taking here at the 20 or 203.
I think Tank Dell's an excellent pick. Excuse me. He is a guy that should be going around this spot in your rookie drafts. Tank Dell has performed. He's performing in part due to the excellence of CJ Stroud. He kind of was a sleeper. I don't think we can really call him a sleeper anymore because he's out there doing his thing. Tank Dell is a guy for sure.
Yep, I agree, man. So eventually one of us is going to bite the bullet here, but I'm interested to see if it's you here or not. What are you doing at 204?
I'm not biting the bullet because it's time for me to pick the third head of the 4-headed monster. Even though one of the monsters got his eyes closed, I'm going to go with a tight end.
Okay.
And that tight end name is Luke Musgrave.
All righty.
His name is Luke Musgrave. Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid have had excellent seasons so far, but let's not sleep on Luke Musgrave, who has been performing as in my opinion, and I don't know if you agree, has been performing kind of as a tight end one, a guy that you could start on a week-to-week basis. He did have some duds of some games, but he's had some PPR. He had some double-digit games as well. He had about, let's see here, 3 or 4 double-digit games. So he is performing. He's a rookie, so well, of course when you compare him side by side with Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid, yeah, he's looking mid to average. But in a typical year where you don't have these two juggernaut rookie tight ends, this would be considered a very, 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 very good rookie tight end season.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I even think there's still one more tight end that we could talk about as a good pick here in the top 24. But I definitely don't disagree with you in the aspect of Luke Musgrave looking like he is at least the future tight end one for the Green Bay Packers. He looks the part. I think part of some of the downside that we've seen from Luke Musgrave so far and why he hasn't fully broken out the way that we wanted him to is Jordan Love's play hasn't been up to par as of lately. And additionally, as well as that, Luke Musgrave was dealing with some injury there for a little bit. So he missed some time to some injury, and Jordan Love didn't play as well as we think he could play. Or maybe we don't think he can play that well. Maybe that's just the issue there too. But with that being said, I think Luke Musgrave here is fine, especially in a tight end premium league. I think definitely there's a couple ways you could have went, but I don't dislike this pick for you in any way.
I can't wait till we pick the guy that we've been talking about because I got some stuff to say about that. But I'll listen to you.
I'm debating him right now. Honestly, like we're getting to the point where it's like I kind of want to consider him just based off of upside and potential. You know, I think more so I'm buying the offense, which I don't like buying offense when it comes to drafting rookies because I feel like that doesn't speak well to the rookie when you just want to talk about the offense that he's in. So I think for that reason, I'm not going to draft him. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one more guy. And War, I've talked about him a lot. Tajay Spears.
Your son.
Look, man, I was a very big fan of Tajay Spears coming into the NFL draft process. Overall, had him as my running back 6. It was Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, Zach Charbonnet, Roschon Johnson, and Tajay Spears. That's what I had coming into the year. I think Tajay Spears, you could even say he surpassed maybe Roschon and Zach. Maybe Tajay is the RB4 in the class right now. Just based off of some of the production that he's given you, we've had 16-point week there in week 5. He's looked fine. It's not like he's giving you anything crazy. I know obviously a lot of this is capped because he's playing behind Derrick Henry, but there was the rumors of Derrick Henry being traded at the deadline. There was the age of Derrick Henry, which is always a concern. The usage that he's seen over these last couple of years, the wear and tear being a possible concern. I think Tajay has shown us enough burst. He's shown us enough talent that you could feel comfortable passing the baton over to Tajay Spears post Derrick Henry. And I think because of that upside and we always want to take these shots on these running backs that do have the talent and do have the potential volume coming their way. You talked about how the offense looked with Will Levis. I mean, we could be this time next year talking about Will Levis and Tajay Spears as the 1-2 punch for the young guys for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, we could. I just have a gut feeling that Derrick Henry is not going to be a Titan next season.
Yeah.
Once the trade wins start picking up and the age starts going up and you got a young hungry dog right behind him, that's when you start thinking about him getting the Dalvin Cook treatment. So I could definitely see Derrick Henry being gone, especially with a new era starting here with Will Levis, especially if Will Levis even shows that he's a competent quarterback worth investing in going forward this season. I definitely could see them going with a complete youth movement next year. So we'll see about that.
There is significant cap savings to moving on from Derrick Henry as well, which would allow you to go out and get more wide receiver talent, get more defensive talent to kind of build this team around Will Levis. So not only does Tajay Spears look the part and all of those factors of Derrick Henry play into it, but there's also a financial savings. And from a business standpoint, could just be the better business move to move on from Derrick Henry at this point too.
Yes, I agree.
So, all right, man, you have the 206. What are we doing here?
Okay, so you guys see me take Luke Musgrave.
Mm-hmm.
at 205. That's where I was at 205. No, I
204.
was at
204.
204. And that was more of a current production. That was from a current production standpoint. But there's two guys remaining on this board, maybe three, depending on who you talk to. But there's two guys on this board that were in the running for being the best at their position in this draft that just have not performed thus far this season. And I'm going to go with the guy who I feel isn't performing because of his quarterback versus the guy who isn't performing, who has a stud quarterback and isn't performing. I'm going to take Michael Myers.
Okay.
Michael Myers. I'm calling Michael Myers because he's killing me right now. He's killing me, like with this production. He's killing me. But I still believe in the talent of this guy, and he's playing the way he's playing because he has a fantasy wasteland at the quarterback position. Yeah. And I honestly feel like I feel like if you take Michael Mayer and put him on the Chargers and put QJ on the Raiders, QJ would be doing the same thing he's been doing. I feel like Michael Mayer will be performing better than QJ currently is with Justin Herbert throwing him the ball versus freaking Brian Hoyer, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Aiden O'Connell. Yeah. As much as I like O'Connell. But yeah, I'm going with this. This is a guy that a lot of us thought was better than Laporta, better than Kincaid. He was a lot of people's consensus best tight end in his draft. So I could get him here. I'm doing it.
He was mine. I had him as the tight end one coming into the class. I thought that the opportunity was great. I mean, we had the narrative of Jimmy Garoppolo likes to hit the tight end position. We just, I guess, didn't have the narrative of Josh McDaniel is horrific as a head coach and was going to be the first head coach fired this season. I don't know if we had that in the bingo card, but yeah, he's been disappointing, but I think the talent is still there for Michael Mayer. We've at least seen the positives. I mean, the first part is get on the field, right? Like we want to see the guy get on the field. And so you see the first month of the season, he was getting like 50% of the snaps, 40% of the snaps. Not sure why the hell they wanted to play Austin Hooper over Michael Mayer at the beginning of the season, but whatever. I guess that's why the head coach is fired. When you look at what has happened since then, 66%, 80%, 90%. So now he's on the field. So now that we have Michael Mayer on the field, we want to see him start producing. I think it's going to be hard to produce with Aiden O'Connell, but, there's still upside with Michael Mayer. And like we said, this is a tight end premium format. I think there's a couple guys that I might have went over Michael Mayer here personally, War, but I don't blame you for going with this pick. But overall, Michael Mayer's been fairly disappointing, but I think there's still some life that could be on the backside of this Michael Mayer pick.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
you got your next pick loaded.
I do. And honestly, War, I'm taking Quentin Johnston. And so it's been very, 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 very disappointing for Quentin Johnston to start this season, especially because he had an opportunity laid up to him with Mike Evans going on IR very early in the year. It's kind of what we wanted, right? We talk about how good the offense is. Justin Herbert's this elite quarterback that we think can help produce elite fantasy football options. They're going to pass the football a lot. QJ has this athletic profile. He's 6'4", 215. It just hasn't been good, man. I mean, the last few weeks, like the very last few weeks have been okay, I guess. Okay. And that's because he caught 5 footballs for 70 yards in week 8 against the Chicago Bears. Last week he caught, it wasn't even good. I mean, the reality is there's not a lot of good stuff to talk about Quentin Johnston. This is an upside potential pick. Again, I said I'm buying the offense. There is very few. I was talking about Bryce Young, and I said I don't want to write him off as a bust yet because of the quarterbacks and da-da-da-da-da. I don't know. I mean, at least Bryce Young, we can make the arguments of, okay, his situation isn't good. And he hasn't played like awful. He just has been disappointing. Quentin Johnston, his situation is probably one of the best situations in football. And he's played like he has played awful. It's not even like he's been serviceable. He's been awful. So Quentin Johnston, I don't know, man. There's that TCU narrative. You know, they had the Josh Dotson, the Jalen Reagor, and then Quentin Johnston was the next guy coming out of TCU. Is he just like another Jalen Reagor, man? Is this a bust?
He's looking real bust. He's looking real busty.
Would you have not even taken him here? I think we're so far into it that the upside is not worth passing on anymore.
There's probably, and let me look deeper at our board here.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably, I'm trying to see how many more guys. Okay, I mean, at this point in the draft, there's probably like one more guy I would have took before him.
I was gonna say I was debating him in like one or two more guys, but I think the upside of QJ is higher than those other guys.
Yeah. And then we're at the point in the draft where you're making these kind of picks too.
But keep in mind, Quentin Johnston was being drafted like 105, 106, 107 range in your rookie drafts, maybe as late as like 108, 109. But like that's where Quentin Johnston was being drafted just, what is it, worth 4 months ago? That's where he was being drafted. And now in a 4-month period, he has fallen almost an entire round in our rookie mocks just based off of poor production.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, man. You got to just kind of consider that some of these guys take longer to develop than others. You're not always going to have a guy come in and be like Jordan Addison and just ball from day one. So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. What are you doing 208?
208, I'm taking Rashee Rice.
Good pick.
Once again, just to follow up with you, I'm buying the offense. I think that slowly but surely, I think we both kind of threw our hat in the Sky Moore ring, but I think it's starting to become a little bit apparent that Rashee Rice is the actual like future guy there, and he's slowly but surely making more plays on a week-to-week basis. And I think I have to go him here just because his quarterback is Pat Mahomes. Like, and that's kind of like my logic now whenever I take some type of wide receiver, who is his quarterback? I don't want to – it's hard to take a guy, even though we did it kind of with JSN, it's hard to take a guy where it's like this elite talent, and then you have, you know, a quarterback that's not elite. I mean, it's going to come into play next season too, because I'm telling you now, the top draft pick, the teams that are likely to get the top pick in next year's draft, one of them is going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. My team might be the one, and looking at history, you kind of have to be concerned about Marvin Harrison Jr. going to the Bears. Like, we'll see. Even though I feel like they're not supporting DJ Moore as much as they could. He got 4 targets, 3 targets, 5 targets, but talent versus opportunity. I mean, that's the only thing you can really, and circumstance. That's all we really can think about.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's very clear, just to go back to your point about Rashee Rice, like I think it's clear that this is the best guy in that wide receiver room. Obviously excluding Travis Kelce because he's not in that wide receiver room. But I mean, when you look at the misfits that they have in that offense, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, MVS, Rashee Rice, like Rashee Rice is the dude, man. And we've seen it multiple occasions now. I like that the snap count is getting a little bit higher. We've seen him go from like this 40%, 30% snap count guy to now he's like a 50 to 60% snap count guy. Now he's last week in Miami, he was almost a 70% snap count guy. So again, like I said with Michael Mayer, we want to see first and foremost the guy get on the field. And then once they get on the field, we need to see them produce. I think when Rashee Rice is on the field, we've seen him, one, be a red zone threat for them, which is obviously very good because if you're the red zone threat for Patrick Mahomes, the chance of you having a double-digit scoring season is very high. And then secondly, I just think he's a field stretcher for them. So this is a good pick for you. I mean, I said it when you made it. He has a lot of high upside. And in fact, I would almost argue that Rashee Rice has just as much upside as QJ right now. And he's the guy that I picked.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, honestly, yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, I'm going to go with my pick here. You might be able to guess this one,
Yeah.
but I'm sticking with my boy, Zach.
Yeah, of course.
So Zach Charbonnet, man, we've seen it the last couple weeks. Obviously, he wasn't getting on the field very early on. He was injured for some time, but the last couple weeks he's getting on the field, and actually he's now out snapping Kenneth Walker. I put a stat in our Dynasty chat the other day between you, me, and some of our guys, and I eliminated the names. I just put the stats out there and asked what your guys' opinion was, and the statistics were very, very inefficient numbers for Kenneth Walker. I think they said almost 50% of his rushes are going for negative yards at this point. Not that Kenneth Walker is bad. I don't think that Kenneth Walker is a bad running back. I think it's a bad offensive line, a bad offense, whatever. Zach Charbonnet is going to be involved, and I think Zach Charbonnet is probably just the best player on the board remaining. Probably not the best situation that we could buy into, but overall, he's a very talented running back. He's demanding work right now. Like he has a very, very talented guy ahead of him, and he's finding his way on the field, which to me speaks volume about how good of a running back Zach Charbonnet is. You know, he was a guy of mine coming in. I just think this is the pick for me right here at what is this, 208 or 209? So
we lose.
What are your thoughts here?
209. I think that's a good pick, man. I mean, the only holdback, because like I said, man, there's certain guys that you sold me on in the offseason, or I was just like, I don't know. And you kind of just sold me on this guy, then I start to believe, and I still believe in him.
In all fairness, War, I did sell you on him before he was drafted to Seattle.
Yeah. But you sold me on the talent. Yes. And the talent isn't gone just because of the situation. Right. Especially in the running back room where guys take turns getting injured. I think the only downside to Zach Charbonnet is that running back room in the way that Pete Carroll decides to run his running back room. I have no issue with you taking him here. He had to be drafted in the top 24. And he's an excellent running back, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme coming up.
Yep. All right, man. Who are you taking at 210?
I'm going to take Roschon Johnson.
All right.
Our two guys that we were going to put above Tajay Spears before, but now we're not. Now, okay, let me explain the Roschon Johnson conundrum. The Bears currently have a lame duck coaching staff. They're a lame duck coaching staff. If any of those guys are back next season, I would see it as a colossal failure, which would be on brand for my Chicago Bears for them to do something that a colossal failure would do. I think that, and Andrew, I want you to chime in here too. Mm-hmm. This is a situation where the coach probably knows that I'm surprised if the Bears didn't have a rule that they don't fire coaches in season, he would have been going before Josh McDaniels.
You think that's
so? 100%. And he knows the only way to save his job is to get at least 5 to 6 wins out of the season. Right now, they have 3. So he knows he has to get either 2 or 3 more wins for it to even be in a realm of possibility for him to be the coach of the future. But that might not even save him because we've already had 2 staff members, 2 coordinators fired over some type of scandals going on within, like, back behind the scenes. So I think that dude's already gone. But my point here is that right now the Bears have Deontay Freeman, and they have not Freeman. Wait.
What are you talking about?
What
Dante Foreman?
Am I talking about? The Foreman. look, guys. I woke up with a little while ago. Not Devonta Freeman, former Atlanta Falcon.
Yeah, this is And that's not even, you said Deontay, that's Devonta Foreman or Freeman.
Yeah.
God
See,
damn, what is
now
going
you
on? Now you got me messing up.
Okay. Foreman is balling
back.
right now. Okay,
Yep.
yeah, running back. Yeah,
Yeah.
Foreman is balling right now. And the coaches are trying to save their jobs, and they don't feel they're probably not wanting to invest in this rookie who has to get all these carries. They're going with the hot hand when really they should be running Roshan Johnson, who is their most talented back. And I feel like this pick will be a pick that will be more valuable next year. There is a 0%, and I mean a 0% chance that Foreman will be back on the Chicago Bears next season. I thought he was going to get traded during this trade deadline. He was a healthy scratch most of the season up until the point where Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson were both out on injury. So there's a moment where the Bears had to call up freaking who's Derrick Henry's last heir apparent. What's his name? Darrington
Evans.
Darrington Evans. We had to call up Darrington Evans, the failed heir apparent to Derrick Henry, to play from the practice squad because we had so much injury. So this is just guys trying to save their jobs, and I feel good about Roshan next season. I don't think the Bears are going to go out and acquire another running back to beat. I think Roshan is the guy, but with guys in a lame duck season trying to save their jobs, he's not the guy for them. Not right now.
I mean, I think the unfortunate thing with Roshan, and again, I was very high on Roshan. I mean, high enough on Roshan that I had him inside of my top 5 backs in the class. But when it's all said and done, I think he missed an opportunity. When Khalil Herbert went down, Roshan Johnson was dealing with the concussions and some of the other stuff. Yeah. I think that was a very good opportunity where Roshan could have taken over and commanded that backfield and made it his. Unfortunately, the way that, the concussions and some of the other stuff played out, he missed his opportunity, which I think, again, like you said, it's going to delay potentially the starting job or the breakout of Roshan Johnson. But like you said, the talent hasn't faded of Roshan. He just missed his shot, which, they say if you want to be ready, stay ready. And unfortunately, he didn't stay ready. Not to his fault, but it is what it is. I think this is a good pick for you right here. I don't know if there's many other guys that I would have considered over Roshan here at this point in the draft.
Yeah.
So, all right, man, we got 2 picks left, one for you, one for me. And it's really tough for me to scroll through this and really make a pick here. But I think where I'm going to go with this is, and I'll just give you, because I want to kind of have an honorable mention here as well, just because if I don't pick this guy, I want to talk about who I'm considering. At this point in the draft, I've been wrong. I was wrong about Tank Bigsby. I thought Tank Bigsby was going to be that guy. I thought he was going to feed. I thought he was going to feed into that backfield. He was going to, or eat into that backfield. I think he was going to take some from Travis Etienne. So far, he hasn't done that at all. So I think Tank Bigsby, he's a guy that I'm not going to be drafting here in the top 24. Marvin Mims is another guy that I was excited about. He hasn't performed. A guy that I would consider drafting here, but I don't know if he's the one. Other guys that I'm considering, Jonathan Mingo, Kendre Miller, and Jaden Reed. All of those guys are guys that I'm considering. When it comes down to who I'm going to be drafting, I'm actually going to be going with Jaden Reed of the Green Bay Packers.
Not bad.
He's a guy that I liked coming into the draft. When we look at where I had him in my post NFL draft rankings, I had him as my wide receiver 6, had him over Jonathan Mingo, had him over Marvin Mims Jr., had him over Rashee Rice. Now, obviously, now in hindsight, there's a couple other guys that we would have taken over Jaden Reed. But the point being, I was high on Jaden Reed coming into this offense. In fact, I am on record, if you go back and look at some of the offseason stuff, saying that Jaden Reed was going to take targets and take looks away from Romeo Doubs. At this point, I don't know if Jaden Reed has done that. I will say, though, that Jaden Reed has looked fine. Jaden Reed hasn't been a superstar by any means, but we've seen enough out of Jaden Reed here where he's had 4 double-digit fantasy point weeks, a couple where he had 9 points, 7 points. It's been good for Jayden Reed to start his career. Again, I talked about with Luke Musgrave with you, War, where Jordan Love just hasn't played great. And I think it's hard when you have Luke Musgrave, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jayden Reed. You have all these guys, and then the quarterback can't really feed all those guys. It's just not good enough quarterback play to support 4 options in the receiving game, as well as an Aaron Jones, that also plays into some of that. So Jayden Reed, he's kind of been the odd man out, but even the odd man out here in the Green Bay Packers offense has been fine for fantasy football. You can stream him on certain weeks, certain matchups. He's been just fine, I think. And I think worthy of a top 24 pick here. And I think I would be taking him over those guys that I mentioned, Bigsby, Miller, Mingo, Mims. And so that's why I'm taking Jayden Reed here. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts, War, on Jayden Reed.
I'm kind of late getting on the Jayden Reed trade. I feel like there is a realistic, and I don't know if you agree with me, I feel like there's a realistic possibility that Jayden Reed has a chance, but based on injury and performance, to actually surpass Christian Watson.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Christian Watson, like you said, it's been availability that's been the issue with Christian Watson.
Yeah.
I think Christian Watson athletically is more gifted than Jayden Reed.
Yes.
But I think technically sound, like as a route runner, as a technician, Jayden Reed might be a little bit better than Christian Watson in that aspect. But athletically, Christian Watson is miles better than anybody on that receiving core from an athletic standpoint. He's a freak of nature.
I'll put it to you like this. I feel like right now in the Green Bay Packers offense, there is not one wide receiver in that wide receiver room that could stand up and say, I'm the wide receiver number 1.
Yep,
and I feel like this wide receiver 1 for the Green Bay Packers is for the taking. It could be Romeo Doubs, it could be Christian Watson, and I think now Jayden Reed could even throw his name in there. So none of those guys have excelled from the other. The quarterback hasn't shown that he could be the number 1 guy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they could all just end up being Jags. But for now, like Jayden Reed, for a rookie coming in, he's not a second-year pro like Dobbs and Watson. So Reed, for a rookie, he's doing very well.
Yep.
And he's involved. So
yeah,
he would have been involved this most recent week had the lead not been so great and had they not went the ground game. So
yep. Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, like I've said multiple times already on this episode, it's about getting on the field, and then when you get on the field, what do you do with it? And I think when he's gotten on the field in the absence of Christian Watson, and when he's gotten on the field, he's performed fine. And I think that's what you wanted to see out of Jayden Reed. Keep in mind, he wasn't like this highly drafted prospect. Like, he's a guy that you took day 2. You took him day 3. He was a day 3 pick, right? 4th round guy. And
I believe so.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think he was a day 3 pick. And it was like, look, you're drafting him as depth, and he's come in and I think he's been a producer on the offense, and he's fine. So Jayden Reed, he makes my top 24. And yeah, man, that's who I pick. So I'm interested to hear who you go with the last pick of our draft.
Okay, so I kind of want to steal from you a little bit and
kind of throw some names out.
Yeah, do some honorable mentions of guys that I think are performing very well for their rookie seasons. I want to throw Jaleel McLaughlin out there. He's doing very well. I think his only downside is that he's behind another young running back. Demario Douglas has come from out of nowhere.
Yep.
I think he's done very well, and he's very well in the running to be the Patriots wide receiver 1. Also want to throw out Emari DeMarcado. He's a plotter. He's a plotter for sure, but he's been serviceable in the wake of James Conner's injury. And last but not least, I want to give a last shout out to my boy Aiden O'Connell, who is looking kind of rough. Definitely hasn't done enough to say this is our quarterback for the future, but he's a rookie and he's learning in a situation that's very hard to learn
Yeah.
So with all that being said, I think we know where I'm going to go based on the trends of the moves of the leagues that me and you have share in and the people I've picked up either via free agency or trade. My last pick is going to be Michael Wilson. And it's going to be
Nice.
Michael Wilson because he plays with Kyler Murray. So, simple as that. He's performed without Kyler Murray, and now he's getting Kyler Murray back. I think that he has completely supplanted
Rondell.
Rondell Moore. It's funny, Drew. There's a lot of similarities between Rondell and Sky Moore, and I get those two like mixed up all the time. And they both wear red. But yeah, I think he supplanted Rondell. The only guy that's ahead of him, really, to me, is Hollywood.
Yeah. I don't see that changing either, though.
Me either. I don't see that changing either. I think he could get nestled into a nice second wide receiver for this team. And if the Cardinals ever upgrade, there is room for the Cardinals to upgrade from Hollywood Brown and make Hollywood Brown the second wide receiver with Michael Wilson going to be the third wide receiver. That's possible too. But I think in the Kyler Murray-led offense, even that is that's valuable. And I don't see the Cardinals. I don't know about you. I don't see them trying to get as bad as they are. I personally don't see them replacing Kyler Murray. I think he will have to be Deshaun Watson last season, early this season bad for the Cardinals to say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and draft a rookie wide receiver, which is very important. Not wide receiver, rookie quarterback, which is very important because obviously that's going to have an impact on the performance of my final pick, Mr. Irrelevant of our draft, Michael Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think when you talked earlier about potential landing spots for like a Marvin Harrison Jr., like Arizona could be a very potential landing spot. I think if they choose to stay with Kyler Murray, they're still going to be bad enough where they're probably going to fall in that top 10 pick. If they're a top 10 pick, Marvin Harrison Jr. is always in play. And I think that would be a great landing spot for Marvin Harrison, and it would be a great landing spot for Kyler Murray to get a guy like that. And I think obviously that would hurt your pick here with Michael Wilson. But like, I want to talk about the potential you said of moving on from Kyler Murray and going to another quarterback. But like, we have Kyler Murray back in the offense this week. I'm excited to see what Kyler Murray does this week. And this is the upcoming schedule. Tell me how many wins you think Kyler Murray can get in this back half of the season. They have Atlanta, Houston, Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Chicago, Philly, and Seattle. How many wins does Kyler Murray contribute to this team in the back half of this season?
I'll answer that question by saying this. There is only, let's see here, there's only 2 games in that schedule where I think is guaranteed losses for the Arizona Cardinals.
San Francisco and Philly.
Yeah, those are only 2 guaranteed losses. Houston is hot right now, but Houston isn't like running away. They can make the playoffs, but they're not like destroying everybody. Atlanta, they're not doing much. The Rams are starting Carson Wentz. Pittsburgh is another possible loss. I would say that's probably like the third most losable game because Pittsburgh, even with their quarterback situation, they're still great. They're still coached really well, and they just have a hellacious defense. The Bears, they're going to beat us. And Seattle, we don't know what version of Geno Smith we're getting. So, and it's a divisional game. So,
yep. I think there's 3 to 4 wins down there for Kyler Murray to take. And if he wins 3 to 4 games, I mean, you're out of the Caleb Williams sweepstakes and you're out of the Drake May sweepstakes. And I don't think you feel comfortable moving on from Kyler Murray for a JJ McCarthy or a whatever it may be, right? A Bo Nix or whatever it may be. So at that point, I think Kyler's job is safe. And I think him coming back now is actually great for this offense because they'll get to see a little bit with the new coaching staff, which, by the way, like we joked and we made a lot of fun of Jonathan Gannon because of the pew, 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 all the other stuff that he was doing in the offseason. He's just kind of a meme guy, but he's done well with this team. Like, I think they've looked good. They've looked coached well. at least for the cards that they've been giving from a talent standpoint this year. What do you agree with that statement?
Yes, I absolutely agree with that statement. It's weird because their record is bad, but I felt like it was a point where I was just watching highlights from their game or watching Red Zone, and I'm watching them with Josh Dobbs and just saying like how they were doing, and then I look at the record and I'm like, I could have sworn they won more of these games. So
Yeah.
that goes to show you, like, it's not like they're going into games and getting blown out the building in every game. They're actually in them. So, I mean, if you factor in the talent of Kyler Murray, like, how much more are they going to win with, an actual guy that's not a career backup behind center?
Yeah. I mean, you take probably one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in the NFL and plug him into that offense. Like, that's just probably, I mean, think of what that can do. And anyways, but I think Michael Wilson is a great pick, and I think him being top 24 is great. So I'm going to summarize where we went with this draft, recap the top 24, and we'll get on out of here. But it was CJ Stroud, 101, Anthony Richardson, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. That's your top 5 picks. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, Bryce Young, Jordan Addison, Dalton Kincaid, Will Levis, Puka Nacua, and Zay Flowers round out your first round. And then in the second round, we started off with Devon Achane, Josh Downs, Tank Dell, Luke Musgrave, Tajay Spears, Michael Mayer. The back half of the second round, Quentin Johnston, probably the biggest faller since draft day. And Rashee Rice, Zach Charbonnet, Roschon Johnson, Jaden Reed, and Michael Wilson. So up to this point, War, the biggest faller we've said is Quentin Johnston. Who do you think is the biggest riser? Puka Nacua?
Absolutely. Puka Nacua went from barely drafted to drafted in the first round. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think
I have a question.
Yeah, go
I have
for
a
it.
question for you. I have a question for you as well. I'm just looking at our draft board here. Where would you have taken Will Levis?
I think I would have considered Will Levis not much further than where you took him. I think the latest I would have taken Will Levis was probably 2-2. That's probably the latest I would take Will Levis. So at least within 4 picks of where you took him.
Okay. I was just curious about that because I wanted to see how far I was reaching.
Yeah, not crazy. I mean, to me, he's a back end of the first, early second round pick. But I think we've seen enough from him that where you took him is a very justified pick. But yeah, man, that's our draft class. I like doing an episode like this. I'm interested to do more of these, and maybe eventually we'll do a mock draft where we put the 2023 class and the 2024 class combined and see how we would take those guys if they were combined. But we'll go from there, man. So do you have anything else to shout out before we get out of here? Obviously, if you guys are watching the replay, hit the like button for us, hit the subscribe button, and go play Pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy. If you do sign up over on Underdog Fantasy, use code League FFB when you sign up. They will give you a 100% deposit match and a free mystery Pick'em, so you can win yourself some money over on Underdog Fantasy. But War, you got anything for us before we get out of here?
Sign up. No, man. This is a very fun episode, man. I was excited to record this one, and I hope this helps you guys target some players, get some of these guys on your team. I know our trade deadlines are all coming up. If you could grab some of these guys for your dynasty team, go ahead and do it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode of Let's Talk Dynasty. But until then, peace out.